Okay. So I'm going to record this. I think we're going to start recording a bunch of the team huddles because we go over such great information now, and we're going to be having a lot of different people start talking on team huddles, not just me and Eden, like have different leaders talk about stuff. So we'll start recording them and we'll add them to the Voxer once they're recorded, but we do really still want everyone to make sure that they're getting on live, not just watching the recording, because being on live is way more important than watching the recording. So if you can still make the live, that's what we suggest. And I wanted to talk about the guide for 90 seconds that Brittany and Eden created, but Brittany isn't here right now, so maybe we'll wait for that. But the guide that she created for the wellness advocates is absolute gold if you haven't gotten on the Dropbox yet and seen what that is. So we'll wait for that. But today, Sage is going to talk to us about all different kinds of resources that we have. People are still trying to get in. Okay, Sage, can you and I have a conversation for just a second about where this idea stemmed from for this topic that you're talking to us about really quick?
Yeah. So I don't know if everyone heard, but I'm finishing up my nursing degree right now. And I also have a bachelor's in the pathophysiology of psychology.
Okay, what is that? We need information. That's amazing. How freaking cool.
So essentially what I do is I take it studies more of the brain and behavior and like the neuroscience of why we act the way we act, rather than just like learning therapy skills and stuff like that. So I like studied the hormones and what those hormones did and like why our brains act the way that they act. It's more like physical based rather than emotional based.
That's incredible. Did it just blow your mind during your studies and during your school time?
Honestly, a big part of that is why I dove into like holistic health in the first place, because I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize how important keeping our brain healthy was. Like, it is so important.
Yeah, that's amazing. Okay, so give us a little synopsis of what we're going to be talking about for the next little bit.
So kind of going back to what you're saying, the reason that this even got brought up in the first place is because I had to do a lot of research. I had to write a lot of research papers, and I still do a ton of research. I'm like a nerd and research things in my free time.
Yeah.
And I had to learn like very rigorous credentials to, like, if I had a resource that wasn't considered medically backed up, they would immediately be like, your paper's invalid. And so I just got really good at learning how to do that. And they taught me how to do that in school. And then I realized that like not everybody has the opportunity to be able to learn how to find credible sources. And so people will just go to Google and type in the first thing that comes up and like follow whatever blog, is the first thing to come up. And I just feel like there's so much stigma in the world of holistic health and essential oils where people are like, I believe or don't believe in essential oils. And my theory was kind of like, well, how do you believe or not believe in it when it's scientifically backed up? Like, it's not a belief or not a belief. Like, it's there. It's real.
Can I just say, I'm so sorry I interrupted you. I'm so excited about this. I've been looking for credible sources all over and I can't find any. So thank you. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, it is. And people, they want it, but they don't know where to find it. And so that's kind of what brought this on with Eden, is I was like, I feel like people could really help to give themselves a little bit of credibility if they just knew where to look.
Yeah. And what I hear Taylor say, and I feel the same way, is like, you'll go onto Google and you'll type in, is oregano safe to ingest? There will be 4,500 articles saying you are killing yourself and your family. And then another 45 that are like, no, this is just as good and better than amoxicillin. So I'm going to give you the floor, and I'm so excited to learn from you too. I've got my notes here and everything.
You're so cute. Okay, so I wanted to first start out by saying like what to even, like, when you go into Google, where to start. So the first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna type in whatever you're wanting to know, but it's more keywords. Like, you can't type in and say, is clove going to make my toothache go away? And then find a scholarly article on it. Like, that's very specific, and a scholarly article isn't going to answer that specific question in that specific format. So what you're going to do is you're going to take the essential oil you're wanting to learn about, let's say lemon, for example, and you're going to type in lemon essential oil like antimicrobial, or is it, does it kill bacteria? And then you're going to type in scholarly article at the end. What that's going to do is that's going to take you to Google Scholar. Google Scholar is a whole separate part of Google that focuses and only meets certain criteria. And if it doesn't take you straight to Google Scholar, you can just type in Google Scholar and kind of do it backwards. But a lot of times I just type in the essential oil I want, and then I type in scholarly articles or peer-reviewed articles. Scholarly articles means that it meets a criteria. It has an abstract, it has a method of action, and it has a conclusion. A peer-reviewed article means that someone did the study and they were paid and funded to do this study. And then outside scientists who weren't involved in the study at all came in and looked at the study and deemed that it wasn't biased, deemed that the method was done correctly, and deemed that it was considered, like, in this case, a medically backed up reviewed article. And so you can either look up peer-reviewed or scholarly article. Those are the keywords. And then once it pulls up, there's a couple sources that you can know are like more trusted than others. Of course, like they taught you in school, like a .gov or a .org is going to be more beneficial to you than a .com or something like that. And that's still true. Like you kind of want to look for the more of the .gov, the .org, but there's certain sites that are more beneficial. The first one, which is really long, is ncbi.nim.nih.gov. That's the National Institute of Health and the Library of Medicine. That's like the most rigorous it gets. Like they are like medically backed up. And most of the resources that I get for school, for my own research, everything I do is from NIH, the National Institute of Health. And they, I would say, probably have the most information on essential oils. There's also MDPI. I think that's a .org, but it might be a .com. I don't know what that one stands for, but that one is peer-reviewed and scholarly. There's PubMed. PubMed is awesome. That's like a database, kind of like the National Institute of Health. And they're also very rigorous about the information that they give out. And then there's ScienceDirect.com. I think that one's a .com. That one is also super beneficial. And so those are kind of the few that I use. That doesn't mean that's the only resources that are like beneficial to you, but those are definitely the ones that I use the most, and they seem to have the most information about essential oils. And I can post those in the chat too at the end as well, because I know it was like a lot of them. And then some resources to avoid, which those won't be on Google Scholar, but if you can't seem to find it on Google Scholar and you just want to look on Google, some websites you want to avoid is anything, of course, that is a blog or a magazine. Those always have an agenda. Like if they're selling supplements, they're going to tell you all the really good things about their supplements. If they're selling essential oils, they're going to tell you all of the really good things that might not be backed up. So magazines, blogs, anything like that, they have an agenda, as well as things like Wikipedia, WebMD, Healthline.com. All of those are paid and funded, and they probably didn't do the research. They probably just saw it somewhere and took it, and it's, said it was FDA approved or whatever. And then a really important one too is hospital websites, such as like Johns Hopkins, Mayo Clinic, stuff like that. All of the hospitals, they are paid off and funded by pharmaceutical companies. And so the only information that they are going to give you is going to be to the benefit of whatever pharmaceutical company is paying them. And so they are going to be the first ones to tell you it's not FDA approved, don't take it. When in reality, like my rule of thumb is if it is FDA approved, I probably don't want it in my body. And so as beneficial and helpful as hospital websites can be with like a lot of different things, you have to remember they might have an agenda and they're probably being funded to post the information that they're putting. Whereas a scholarly article or a peer-reviewed article, they can't do that. So that's kind of the do's and don'ts for websites. And then once you kind of find a website that you like, when you look at the article, you're going to want to look for three things: the abstract, the method, and the references, and then the conclusion. When you pull up a scholarly article, the first thing you'll see is the abstract. And a lot of times they'll make you you won't have access to it unless you're a student or if you want to pay for it, but you don't need to do either of those. Like there's still things that I don't have access to as a student where you don't need the entire article to understand the point that they're trying to get across. You just need to see the abstract, see the method, the way that they went through and performed the research that they performed, and then the conclusion. So don't pay for it unless you're like super into it and you want to really dive in and do the research, then go for it. But I don't. You can find pretty much all the information you need from that, because you're not going to go post on your Instagram like the way that they performed the study. You just want to show that a study came to the conclusion that oregano helps to fight bacteria, if you know what I mean. So you can find that in the abstract. That will tell you what the article is trying to say. And then the method and the references. And the references are other sources that they use to come to their conclusion. And then the conclusion itself. And when it comes to like posting it, you can just take the URL. I do a lot of it in APA just because that's how I learned it. That's just a way of referencing for like actual research. But you can just take the URL and put it, like if you're posting a reel, put it in the caption. If you're posting an actual graphic, put it in the graphic. Like when people see that you have this reference to a scientifically backed up study, it shows credibility. That's like the number one way to show credibility is transparency. And the first thing that they do in like any sort of research paper, any sort of research study, you'll see this long list of references. And that's because in the medical world, that's what you do, is you show people, I did my research on this. I didn't just pull this out of, thin air. And so when you make a graphic, when you post it, when you're doing all this research, save the URLs and put them in there so that, because people can go look at them if they want, but 99% of them aren't going to. They just want to see that you put in the work for these articles. And I know that was a lot of information all at once. So anyone, there's chats. Oh my gosh, I didn't even see them. I'm sorry, guys.
Sage, I have a question for you, and this might be vague, and I'm trying to formulate my question, but like I want to be better about showing credibility, showing scientific research like that, because it helps even moms who really aren't trying to get these huge, big abstract thoughts across, but just saying, oh, it is worth my money to go spend $150 on a kit. So like, where would you suggest we start on sharing this information? Like literally just go in maybe 15 minutes of our spare time and look on the scholar websites of lemon and antimicrobial and find one that resonates with us, and then go and post that. Where, like, what would you suggest we start with?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I think starting like, and there's studies that show just essential oils in general. Like for me, I'm really big on aromatherapy for mental health. And so I went and I started researching aromatherapy with essential oils. It wasn't a specific oil. I just said, what are the benefits of aromatherapy? And I ended up finding an article that said that lemon reduced anxiety in nursing students by like 50%.
Wow.
And it was just those little, like, it doesn't even have to be that specific. It can just be anything that interests you. The reason you got into essential oils could be something that you research. For me, it was mental health. And so I started researching mental health and essential oils. That's literally the keywords I put into Google Scholar: mental health and essential oils. And you would be like surprised what incredible research. And it kind of takes you down a rabbit hole of, oh, I just learned this, and then I learned this, and then I learned this. And it just keeps you going and going, and you get better and better at learning what to find and kind of what your niche is. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question?
Yes, it totally answered my question, because I think we all have used oils for specific things and the same things, And so how many things could I go put in the Google Scholar right now of like kids and essential oils, or I don't know, pregnancy and essential oils, or there's so many things you could put in there, right?
And, unfortunately, because not all of it is FDA approved, that was another thing I wanted to bring up is pretty much anytime you do any research on it, they're going to say, this isn't FDA approved. They have to like make it really big, bold letters. And they're going to say, there needs to be more studies before it can be FDA approved. Like, don't let that be discouraging. That's them covering their butts just in case someone tries to come and sue them. That's all that is. They're just saying, because if they say, oh, frankincense cures cancer, and then somebody dies of cancer and they tried frankincense, then they could go back and sue whoever did that research. So don't let that be discouraging to you. If you don't find exactly what you're looking for right away, it could be because they're trying to, people can get sued and these are research funds and stuff like that. So just take the information without really having to take the whole, oh, it's not FDA approved thing. There needs to be more research. Yeah, we get it. Like, you can find what you need without focusing on those parts of it, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I want everyone else to have a chance to ask you questions before I ask you another question. So I'm just going to let people unmute themselves for a second. and if they don't.
And I love that Heidi put in here too, doTERRA has research sites. doTERRA is so transparent with their research. And that is like a great place to start too. Like even if you just put doTERRA oils into like Google Scholar, like doTERRA does a lot of research. And that's another reason why it's so important to do our own research, is because doTERRA is doing it. And then if we turn around and we're making false claims, it's like, okay, they kind of did it for nothing.
Mm-hmm. I love Source2U. Source2U is such a great resource. It's like my only resource right now for this kind of thing. So for you to give me all these other ones, I'm excited to go nerd out. And I'm not a nerd. Like I don't always love that stuff, but I'm excited.
Oh, like I said, it's like a rabbit hole.
Who else?
I don't mean to interrupt again.
Yes.
I just think this is so amazing because I love doTERRA's research, and it's so awesome that we have that on the website, and there's so much information on doTERRA's website that people are not, like new customers and wellness advocates are not taking advantage of, or they don't think to, because it's hard to go and search doTERRA's, if you don't have time or whatever, you're not going to just sit down. But it's also great for new customers because when you see somebody selling something and then you say, oh, my source is the doTERRA website. It's like, well, yeah, they're going to say that their oils work because it's the doTERRA website. So these extra sources are like, no, it's real. No, this is like legit. I'm so
Totally.
excited.
It's like if a supplement company is like, these supplements work, our scientists that work for us, you're like, yeah, well, of course they're going to say that.
Yeah.
This is the exact same thing of, no, this is like, these are people that aren't involved even in essential oils. They're just doing the research.
I also don't think we realize how lucky we are to be sharing on social media in this day and age, with just how untaboo, that's not a word, but I'm rolling with it, how untaboo essential oils and plant medicine is becoming. And so for us to make livings and be able to share this with science-backed research from things you're sharing with us, Sage, like we are very lucky to have this in this day and in this time, and for your knowledge.
Well, and we totally, like, we are lucky to be able to kind of change that stigma of, oh, essential oils are kind of that voodoo witchcraft, like hippie vibe. No, like I am in the medical world and I am going into nursing and I understand modern medicine and I still choose holistic medicine. And it's like, we have the opportunity to change that stigma of we can take our health back.
I love that. I just got chills. I love that too. Does anyone have more questions for Sage before we let everyone get back to their lives in their afternoon? No, we're good. Cool. Sage, thank you so much for this information.
Thank you.
I cannot even wait. Peyton said this was amazing.
Peyton, thank you.
Sage, will you share these, just like a summary of the website and the ones to avoid and everything in the Voxer, so we have those there?
Yeah, I was going to make just like a little graphic of like do's and don'ts and where to go, and just kind of everything I said today, just put it in like a little graphic, and I'll put that in, I can put it in Outback and in the Loverlies one.
Yes, that would be perfect. Okay. Heidi says, I'll throw this out as a resource to anyone on this team. I have access to a university online library for any peer-reviewed or research-based article on any topic. If you want me to search any topic for you, I would love to offer this as a resource for that by community. Okay, so Heidi's part of the Voxer too. So if you guys would like access to Heidi's search engine too, it sounds like she's willing to help us with that along with Sage's. So I don't think we lack in resources and credibility now. This was awesome, Sage. I'm so excited. I'm like gonna, instead of scrolling Instagram tonight, I'm gonna go scroll Google Scholar, you guys.
Like I said, I'm such a nerd, and I just will like type in, if I have a question, I'll just like type in like peer-reviewed articles for this and this. And my husband's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I just found 14 different articles on why you should like lower your cholesterol. He's like, okay.
That is amazing. It makes us sound so smart. And you are so smart, like you're nursing, but for those of us who are college dropouts, it makes us sound a little more credible. All right, we're gonna let everyone go. I love you all so much. I'm gonna